Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Howdy y'all, Red O'Loughlin here. We're on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. I am just about ready to release my book. I've been through a lot of efforts here recently. Aging Sucks is now in a book format, and very shortly I'll have it on Amazon for pre-order, so it's coming. But it talks about, at the base level of the body, cellular level, what actually causes aging and what can you do about it. But that's enough about me for today. Let's go ahead and get started with our guest. Scott Woster was a guest recently on The Wise Ones. He's now back here today on the Corner Bookstore because he's also an author. He wrote Ways and Means. Scott, please join me.
Hey, how you doing, Red?
Exceptionally well, as always.
Yeah.
I tried to get my camera where I could readjust things, and with Windows 11, it's just, it's a hair-pulling evolution to change from 10 to 11. I don't know. I'll figure it out and make it work. But anyway, we talked last time about your background, so why don't we take about the first 2 or 3 minutes and give people an idea of you before you wrote the book, so that they have an appreciation for why you wrote the book.
Okay. Sure. I'm a counselor here at St. Joseph's Indian School in Chamberlain, South Dakota. I kind of came by that employment, by that career, by happy circumstance in college. Basically, to be truthful, I threw a dart at a list of college majors and ended up being as a counselor, and it's been my life's work, and it's been absolutely fantastic. But I, at an early age, was raised on books, in a way that kids aren't so much anymore these days, but books were such a big part of my family. I come from a family of authors. I come from a family of journalists, columnists. And in fact, my sister was the director of the Center for the Book here in South Dakota. And, South Dakota is a small state, but we have a pretty proud tradition of books and writing and our own stories to tell here in the state of South Dakota as well. So, I didn't do any writing of books until I was probably about 5 years ago is when I started to write during the pandemic. So didn't come to it. It wasn't what I planned to do. In fact, there was partly a rebellion against the fact that everybody in the family was writers. So I'm going to do something different. That's not the direction I want my life to take necessarily.
Okay, last time we only had one background with the one off your right shoulder. This time we have two. So why don't we take a brief moment and explain to the audience what's the significance of the two wall decorations you have?
Of the two quilts. Perfect. That's a great answer. So here I am in my office. This quilt here, the blue and gold, and you can see it's stitched in the bottom with St. Joseph's Indian School. I was given that as a graduation gift by a student of mine, who actually, a lot of the book that I wrote is about this particular student, Sean Zephyr. He graduated from Chamberlain High School here in South Dakota and St. Joseph's Indian School. And there's a Lakota tradition of gifting people with things when something meaningful is happening. So when he graduated high school, his family and Sean had this quilt made for me and gave it to me. It hangs in my office. The quilt directly behind me, the blue and white one, is a quilt that Sean's younger cousin, Kenyon McCloskey, another student of mine, gave me on his 8th grade graduation. So, and actually there's one on the couch too, that another student of mine, Tywin Grassrope, gave me when he graduated from 8th grade. So my office here at the school is filled with gifts that came from the kids. And I'll just point to, if you can see it, this painting on the wall over here, a Native American student that went to school here in the 70s, a dear friend of mine, John Beheeler, who was an incredible artist, very well known in the state of South Dakota, and getting to be known in a little bit of an expanded world too. But these are all gifts from people that I've been given over time.
Okay, so is that part of the graduation from 8th grade to create something like that, or is that just a gift because you were instrumental in his life?
Correct, just instrumental in their life. So what you might see, we just had graduation for high school, and we just had graduation for 8th grade here on campus. And with a lot of our Native students, I think we have about 40 or 50 of them up at the Chamberlain High School now, and we had a smaller 8th grade class here, about 20 kids. Often their families will have these quilts made, and they will give them to their kids. So when the kids graduate, they'll wrap them around their shoulders. And in fact, my own daughter is Lakota. She's tribal here too, Sages, and she graduated high school 2 weeks ago. And her mother and I, thank you. Yeah. Yep. And I'm not, full disclosure, I'm not tribal. I came here to St. Joe's 25 years ago and knew nothing about the culture. It wasn't taught to me in school. But my wife is Rosebud. She's the Rosebud Sioux tribe, and she is the cultural teacher here at the school. So when our daughter walked off the stage at Chamberlain High School, we stepped up and wrapped a quilt around her shoulders and hung a feather in her hair, or actually an eagle plume, which is another tradition. We tie a feather in the hair of our kids here at the school. Girls get a plume, small, real downy feather from the eagle that they wear. And it's to help lift them up. And, the eagle in the culture is a bridge between the human world and the spirit world. And the eagle is back and forth. It's a great symbol. The feather is it serves as a reflection of a great accomplishment and provides that connection to the spirit world, or to heaven, as a lot of people might think of it.
Is there a particular kind of eagle that is represented by the tribe?
It's usually a bald eagle, right? And so, usually a bald eagle, I would say. And so you'll see that a lot with this time of year at graduation ceremonies. You'll see the feathers are used quite a bit, and in all ceremonies they're used quite a bit. I think it's still illegal for anybody but Native American to have feathers, to actually be in possession of them. I don't think that the police have a lot of time to run around arresting people for having feathers. So, if you're having a feather while you're white is not probably one of the biggest crimes you can commit anymore. But I've seen many through ceremonies and through celebrations in Indian country, certainly.
You started writing a book when?
So I think the first book I wrote, I started during COVID, and that was the first book I wrote was about my wife and her family's journey. And I wrote it during COVID because I had some free time, I had downtime, and I had been on a journey a little bit of trying to read as much as I could, which I've done my entire life. But I was really trying to compartmentalize my reading. I sat down literally and did this. I said, I'm going to read in 2019, I'm going to read world literature. 2018, I read poetry from, historical poetry, nothing really current contemporary poetry, anything like that. And I went back even several years. Those are just a couple of examples. And I got to the place where I thought, God, I'm having so much fun breaking down the reading and understanding these things. I kind of want to put my own thing out there and see what my voice tells me, because the writing is just so much fun. It was, I want to see where it goes. And the first book I wrote was about my wife. It writes itself. And I look for somebody else to write it, because it does write itself. And I have so many authors in the family that I went to each of them one by one and said, would you like to tell this story? It's going to write itself. They all turned me down one by one, and ended up with me thinking it wasn't going to be written. And my wife said, well, what are you doing? You need to write this book yourself. And if it's the bottom one there, which will be Brave Girl, Story on the Wind, which is my wife Lorraine's story, starting with her grandmother, basically, or her great grandmother, and telling the story that reflects white culture coming in and reflects what was done to her culture, and how it changed what she learned as she went along, and how it's provided direction for her adult life going forward. It's a fascinating story. I'm not saying that because I wrote it, but the story itself is fascinating. The writing, people can take that or leave it, but the story is pretty amazing.
Okay, so you said it wrote itself. Tell me, why do you think it wrote itself?
Well, okay, so the arc of every person in life, you, me, whoever, has these ups and downs, these trials, tribulations, all any life is going to have these natural things. I've heard her tell her family stories. I've heard Lorraine's mother, Bernice, tell her family stories of their last name, their surname is Brave Boy. So she was Bernice Brave Boy, and I think it was shortened to Brave at some point. But there are certain things about Bernice's story in particular that I just think were so compelling. Her father was murdered by a hitchhiker when in Indian country when she was very young. A formative experience for her, losing her father. He was shot, I can't remember, 7 or 8 times in the stomach, and left to die in the middle of a road in as remote a place in South Dakota as you can find. She married a white man here in the state, and their older son was killed when he was 18. He died in a rollover accident. Bernice had just a lot of tragedy as she was growing up, and had 8 kids. My wife was the youngest of those kids, but managed to raise those kids as she struggled mightily, of course, with losing all the significant men in her life. My wife was married before I was, and before she was married to me, I should say. And her first husband was diagnosed with a brain tumor, was having headaches. And between the time he went to the hospital and the time he died, it was a span of about a week. Wow. They found out that his brain tumor was not malignant. It was benign, but the swelling from the work that they did to find that out put him into a coma, and they had to take him off life support. Well, she had 3 girls at that time, 14, 12, and 10. I want to say I knew them. She was already teaching here at the school, but it just that current that ran through their lives of losing these significant men in their lives and having this tragedy continue, I thought was a story that should be told and that could be told. And also the mirroring of her life with culture as it relates to the American story and the South Dakota story of the culture being taken away from the tribes people here. It was also taken away from Lorraine, mostly because it was taken away from her grandma. Her grandma had that forcibly taken from her by, white settlers, and it was around the turn of the century, and the tribes people around here lost everything, and so did Lorraine's grandmother.
Okay, so it wrote itself because there's so many stories that have been told over and over and over again.
So easy to tell. Yeah.
Okay, got you. Okay, so how long did it take you to write it?
You know, with the book, I would say it's not a long book, but when I sit down and I get after it, it goes pretty quickly. And now I'm also telling stories that don't need a lot of referencing. I don't have a bibliography. I'm not citing research or anything. So it's a little bit. My dad was a well-known journalist in the state, where he had to cite all sorts of things, and you have your sources and those kinds of things. But he was also a Sunday columnist in the biggest paper in the state. And I suppose it's sort of a reflection of his writing in that, where you don't have to worry about being research oriented. You can just write for entertainment purposes. And so when you sit down to do that, I'm going to take a step back on that. I'm in a culture here with the Lakota culture where I am. The stories were told around the campfire, right? It was an oral history. And I suppose, like you, like me, you have the oral history for yourself too. You know, you learn from your grandparents, you learn from your parents. Stories were handed down through time, and I learned that's part of it. But the other part is when I started working with children here at the school, I realized if you want to keep the attention of a 7th grader, 10th grader, senior, you better have a good story, because I can come at those kids with facts. I can come at them with workbooks that provide some kind of a template for where a lesson is supposed to go. But you can tell when the eyes go dark and they're not paying attention to you anymore. So for me, it always had to be, Scott, you better bring energy. You better bring a story to the table. And I think in the end, I kind of probably am known around here for telling stories that do have lessons. At least I hope they do, but for entertaining and bringing laughter and bringing solemnity, if that's an appropriate word for it, in a way that that kids would get. You have to grab them. You have to be able to do that. And I think in Brave Girl, the story grabs people, and my style of writing hopefully carries that story well enough.
Okay, so you wrote the book. Did you do your own editing, or did you pay for somebody to look at it?
I had a gal that works in town. She used to work here at St. Joe's, and she runs her own business around here. I think it's a communications business, and she agreed to do the editing for me. I asked my family to do the editing for me, and they were going to go light on it. They weren't going to. We're an entire family of grammar correctors, and so if you're saying the wrong things, you're gonna get corrected in my family. And that's not even on the side that writes. My grandmother's side of the family, they loved English and grew up doing that. So you're going to be corrected. In fact, I have an uncle who has a book that he's created over the years, and it's filled with malapropisms and mixed metaphors, and it's a notebook thick of this stuff, and somebody needs to write that, and they keep pointing fingers at me, but I'm not sure it's the kind of a book that I would write. But it's highly entertaining, and it made me think when we talked just off air. You said if you are carrying on too long, if you start to beat a dead horse a little bit, you're gonna, we're both gonna be on screen, and we'll kind of shift direction. But I had a gal in a meeting here at the school here say that she didn't want to eat a dead horse, and she was trying to be erudite. She was trying to be bright, and she screwed up the metaphor, of course. And so here we are. It's that kind of stuff that just entertains me. So family didn't want to edit the book. The gal across the river did. I thought she did an excellent job. I probably would have been willing just to throw it out as was. I'm kind of once it's out there, it's yours. You can have it, do what you will with it. But yeah, she did a really nice job with that.
Okay, we're getting ready to come up on a commercial break here, literally in just a few seconds. When we come back, I'd like to talk about your cover and go down that particular road for a short while.
Yeah, sounds great.
What if one simple skill could change the way you connect with the world? What if listening could open doors to deeper relationships, stronger businesses, and a better you? Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, the Listening Mentor, brings you USA Global TV and Radio, a space where voices are heard, ideas are shared, and global communities thrive. Through the elevated listeners' courses and books, you'll master the power of listening, set boundaries with confidence, and transform conversations into opportunities. Join us. Listen, learn, elevate. Whether you're a leader, a coach, a business owner, or someone seeking stronger connections, your journey starts today. Subscribe, learn, and transform today.
Rhett Laughlin here on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. My guest today is Scott Woster. Scott, please join me.
Hey.
Okay, your cover. You really have two books out there, but right now we just concentrate on the first one. So let's go into the first one first, talk about the cover, and then jump over to the second one, introduce it a little bit, and talk about the cover.
Yeah, great. So the cover of the first one on Brave Girl here, we've got a picture of my wife, Lorraine, as a little girl in, I assume it's Mission, South Dakota, in a living room in reservation housing, probably deep in poverty there without much happening. And this is her grandmother, Nellie Brave Boy. And this gal, I can't say how much Nellie Brave Boy means to my wife. And so the back cover, I'll just show you. This is Lorraine's mom. This is the bridge between those two, between Lorraine and her grandmother. This is Lorraine's mom, Bernice Brave Boy, and we took her out to her old stomping grounds in Woods, South Dakota, in the center of the state. There's not much there, but we took her to the graveyard to see her mom's grave, and that's her. Actually, I think that's her at the old homestead. You can see there's no house there anymore. There's nothing that they would have had when she was growing up. So that's the cover on that.
Okay, Ways and Means. Let's do a real brief talk about that.
Okay, so Ways and Means I think I was writing it around that same time, and it's a lot. It has to do with my story, which I thought would be a lot of fun to tell. It's easy to write, it's an easy story to tell. It's my story of growing up from about the time I was 10 or 14, somewhere in there, dealing with my life, the lessons that I learned along the way. It's a lot of stuff that I have offered to the students that I've worked with over the years to help them understand that life doesn't work the way you always want it to, that you're going to go through a lot of pitfalls and you're going to do a lot of learning as you go along. It's supposed to be awkward. It's supposed to be hard sometimes. And I want them to know that going into it. That's one thing that I try to teach them. So the book is kind of is my story about that and what I found, the lessons that I've learned through life.
Okay, so I think if I remember reading right, you talk about going from self-doubt to self-acceptance. Is that right?
There's a lot of that in there. And that's an easy thing to say too, that I had social anxiety, a really good case of social anxiety. And then I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue. A lot of that stuff was in my early 20s, late teens. When I was a high school kid, I would imagine I didn't have much self-doubt then. I was just being a kid. I had a pretty normal life. I had a decent upbringing and just wanted to do sports and music and hang out with friends and meet girls and those kinds of things. And sometimes with those kinds of things, there's probably less self-doubt than I would be proud of, lack of humility and those kinds of things as you might have as a young man who think you know it all at that age. Well, when I got into my 20s, that the social anxiety kick didn't leave me when I got into the working world and the sickness that I went through in my probably 20s and into my early 30s when I first started working here at St. Joe's was actually pretty crippling for me. And so, yeah. And then self-acceptance, a lot of things happened through the years to get me to this point right now.
Now, the cover is a little bit more abstract than the first
Yeah.
one that had the picture of your wife's as a young girl and her grandmother. So why the major shift in covers?
Yeah, I had a buddy of mine said, "Hey, you want to sell books? You're going to have to come up with something flashy for this book." And I kind of laughed with him and did not purposefully come up with this as a cover for it, but I mentioned it briefly on the wall over there, that painting by John Beheeler, who's a Dakota tribal artist. I asked him specifically, I said, "Hey, you've done a lot of traditional art, you've done a lot of cultural art. Could you come up?" In fact, John has designed a few of the tattoos that I have on my arms. The tattoos that I have are all also paintings or drawings that I've given to my 7 grandchildren. Each of them, when they were born, I wrote a song for them. The song had a painting. And so I also write lyrics. I've been in bands my whole life. But John, I asked John specifically, "Can you read my story and come up with some cover art for this thing?" And John did this. And I said, "You don't have to do it traditional. Come up with whatever it is that you want to do. It's not necessarily a story about Native American culture, but it's embedded there. I've lived it for 32 years, and it's going to be a part of it no matter what. I can't separate myself from that." But what he has is it didn't shake out as well for a book cover as it looks in the art. But if you can see it, it transfers to the back cover too. You have the spine is a tree, the Sundance tree from the sacred ceremony, and you've got a chokecherry bundle that's tied in the crutch of that tree. The grandfather is what they call the tree, and that's what you pray to in the Sundance. The black lines are the legs of Iktomi, or spider in the culture, which is a sacred relative. The brown lines are the spider web. The colors I just think are beautiful, the way he set that off. And then you've got the teepee, of course, with the path of footprints walking into it, which reflects the Lakota name that I was given, which is Iashka Oyate Omani, which means one who walks with the White Stone Nation, and the footprints are walking with the white stones. And so John absolutely knocked it out of the park with this. I couldn't be happier with the artwork that John did for that cover.
How are you marketing your books?
Amazon, all the bookstores. I'm not the one thing that I don't do well. I mean, I can write, I can spin a good yarn, but as far as marketing the books, that's the tricky part, right? I mean, you're asking the tough question for me because I don't have a background in that. I'm not a natural salesman. I don't have that. That's just doesn't come natural to me. So Facebook, the Instagram, I've got a website set up, things like that. But I'm not a good salesman. That's a hard part for me.
Okay. Lots of learning for both of us. I've been busy writing and editing on my book. I'm now at that point in time where I'm ready to resurrect my marketing campaign after this coming weekend.
Yeah.
So I'm giving a lot of thought right now as to how I want to structure certain things. And kind of putting a schedule out in my mind. I haven't got it to paper yet, but I know what I want, but I got to get these other things done first. And then once that's there, I'm ready to roll. But it's a mental exercise as well as anything else. But you mentioned a couple times during our conversation, I don't want to let it go too far away, but you mentioned some health issues, and backstage, you mentioned something about type 1 diabetes. Why don't we take that topic while we still have a couple of minutes? Yeah,
and that's something that runs through both of these books, because my wife, when she had the 3 young daughters with her first husband. Her first husband was diagnosed with adult onset type 1 diabetes at maybe 30 years old. And two of her young daughters at about 3 or 4 years old were both diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And this is back in a time where you're counting carbs and you can only give so much food and that type of thing. It was probably I suppose, mid to late 90s. Well, when Lorraine and I had our own daughter, Sage, in 2008, we never crossed our minds that diabetes might be a possibility, because we assumed that her first husband was the carrier for the girls, that it was a genetic thing that was passed down to the girls. Well, my daughter Sage was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when she was 16 months. And it's in the book, part of it, we were rushed. I'll say she wasn't, she was potty trained, and then she took a step back, and was wetting the bed and was drinking tons of water again. And Lorraine wanted her checked, so grabbed a blood tester from one of the older girls, and immediately seeing the number started sobbing. It was probably 300 blood sugar or something like that. I was still in denial because I wasn't around when the older kids were diagnosed. We were rushed to the closest medical center, which is a couple hours away in Sioux Falls, and I was giving her a shot by that night. So that it's been we've had kids. Our oldest daughter, when she was a teenager, was in ketoacidosis. We thought we were going to lose her. And now we have a granddaughter that was just diagnosed with type 1 diabetes last fall. Cedar was diagnosed. So we're like the poster child for type 1 diabetes, sadly.
Is that a gene passed down in the Lakota tribe, or is that just incidental?
I've never heard that, incidental, I guess. I know they're trying to do a lot of research with beta cells and, things to stimulate the pancreas and those kinds of things. And I've got 4 young women in my family that would sell their souls to be able to, to have a pancreas that worked. It's been a heck of a deal for them. So that's a story that runs through the books too.
Okay. I know you do a podcast there. I think you have one coming up very shortly. Why don't we talk a bit about that before we get to the end of the show? Yeah.
So I was walking across campus one day about 4 years ago, and our marketing director saw me and pulled the car over and said, "Hey, we're going to run a podcast. Would you be interested in hosting an episode?" Well, of course, sure. I'll put myself out there. I don't have social anxiety anymore. I'll do that. Well, we got into it, and I think we're 150, 160 episodes deep into it now, and I've hosted every episode. So something must have worked out. I passed the audition, but it's called Hochoka, which is a reference to the center of camp at St. Joe's. In tribal communities, it would have been when you had your teepee set up in a circle. The center of camp is where all the stories were told, where the discussions happened, where a lot of good things happened. So that's what we call it. We have it in the back of the sacristy over here at the Catholic church that's on campus. And I'll interview kids that go to school here, tribal scholars, storytellers, authors, Catholic scholars. We do a lot of things. For example, this afternoon, I'll have a Hochoka episode where I interview the food service people who work here on campus. We've got a food scarcity issue all over Native country right now, with it being too difficult to afford. So we do all sorts of stuff on there. It's a grand show.
I was just making some notes on that. So how long does your podcast last? And is it audio or video or what?
Yeah, so we have a video. So I guess technically you'd call it a vlog? But it's about, we try to do 20-minute episodes with it. And we're putting one out every week now. So there's new content every week. And everything is archived. So if there's something that catches somebody's fancy, it's on there.
And how do people find the podcast?
Well, think they've sort of made it deliberately not a little tricky. You know what I mean? It's Hochoka. You can type that in, or I see you've got the website up on the bottom of the screen, and it would be on there. So anywhere you watch your podcast, Podbean or Apple, what is it? Apple podcasts, you can find them on there.
Okay, for our audio audience, it's going to be SJIS kids, KIDS.org. So that's what St. Joseph's Indian School
Yep.
kids.org.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, just make sure we have the ability of people to find it for you.
That's great.
We talked last time very briefly about AI and using it with regard to a number of different things. One in particular was video, short videos, 30, 40, 50-second videos as part of your marketing campaign. Is that something you've looked at any further, or is that still one of those things you're researching?
Still researching. Yeah, I'm the technology piece of it is pretty tricky for me. What I would like to have is a 16-year-old kid here, or 20 or 22-year-old that would sit here next to me and just do it for me. At this point, I'm pretty lazy when it comes to that sort of thing. But I know it's part of you go back and forth between, okay, I want this stuff out there. I want everybody to get a hold of this, and the idea of just doing it for the sake of doing it, because I love to do it. I love to write, love to play music. I love to do podcasts, and I love to chat with folks like you with inquisitive minds and be able to have these conversations. And so you go, well, I'll do it for the sake of doing it, which is sure a barrel of laughs. So
well, let me suggest something, Scott.
Yeah.
Why don't you hire a 16-year-old to train you? 1 hour, you're going to be a much better than almost every other author out there.
Interesting.
And it's worth the time and the money to have somebody give you hands-on training.
Right.
That might make a major difference in your sales. I don't know. I'm just suggesting.
Nope. And you're probably right. And it's probably more common with authors. We tell stories well. We or do our research for our books well, but the marketing is the issue, isn't it? How
do people get your book, and how do they get in touch with you?
Anywhere that you can buy a book, I think you can do that. Amazon certainly is a place where you could get either of the books. They can get them straight from me. I'm easy to find. I'm all over the place. If you type my name in, it's going to bring up my website, scottwoster.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'll pop my email out there. People can get a hold of me any way they want to. I'd love to talk to people. I'm not so busy that I'll talk about the books. I'll talk about the podcast with anybody, anytime. It's my passion. So I love to do this.
Okay. Again, for our audio audience, later on this afternoon when they get this broadcast, Scott Woster, but it's not the WOO Woster.
Correct.
It's Scott, SCOTT, Woster, WOOSTER.com. So ScottWoster.com.
Yes, exactly.
Scott, I enjoyed our second one just as much as the first one. A totally different path that we went down, and learned a lot today. So thank you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me on, Red.
And we will catch you down the road somewhere. I'm sure there's no doubt in my mind about it. We're concluding today's the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And my next program comes in about 15 minutes. Usually it's a little bit more than that. But 15 minutes called The Wise Ones. And then I have a show this afternoon. And my topic today is how do you stay visible, relevant, and credible? And that's going to be on Talking Heads in about an hour and 15 minutes. As we're concluding the show, I'm going to repeat one more time. My book, Aging Sucks, comes out very shortly. I'll have it available hopefully after this weekend for pre-orders. That's my plan. Still working on a couple issues that I need to work out with regard to some just minor tweaks here, there, and yonder, but not quite satisfied with the way it is. But it's coming along very, very well. I'm going to say pretty much fully edited. I got a lot of beta readers I'm going to be sending a PDF out to this weekend. So little by little, it's coming along, and I'll keep you advised as to what's happening. With that, I'm going to conclude the show today, and please join me if you can on The Wise Ones. If you're watching the show today on YouTube, please consider being a subscriber to the USA Global TV and Radio Network or to Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck on YouTube. Really appreciate that a lot. Take care, y'all. Catch y'all later on. Bye now.
How much of your value have you been giving away? Saying yes when the answer should have been no? Lowering your price to secure the opportunity? Giving more while receiving less? Over time, it adds up. Until one moment brings clarity, you've been giving away your value. This is not about working harder. This is not about doing more. It's about boundaries. It's about pricing. It's about respect. From Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck comes a direct and necessary message. Stop over-delivering. Stop underpricing your expertise. Stop negotiating against yourself. Because when you recognize your value, everything changes. Stop giving away your value. Boundaries, pricing, and the business of respect. Available now wherever fine books are sold and on Amazon. A film by USA Global TV and Radio. Executive producer Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Videographer and cinematic production Paul Garcia. Voiceover by Ed Wargas. Stop giving it away. Start owning it.
My Tummy Hurts by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Meet Jackie. She loves recess, running with friends, and laughing on the playground. At school, Jackie tries to play like she always does, but suddenly the pain comes back. Lately, something feels different and her tummy hurts, sometimes a little and sometimes a lot. With the help of a caring teacher, a nurse, her mom, and a kind doctor, Jackie begins to understand what her body is trying to tell her. Sometimes tummy pain is more than a simple bellyache. Some children live with conditions like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. Jackie listens to her body. She asks for help. She knows she's not alone. And Jackie finds her way back to running, laughing, and being herself. My Tummy Hurts, a kid's guide to bellyaches and bathroom troubles by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, available on Amazon and in fine bookstores around the world.
In a quiet seaside town in Greece, where sunlight warms the stone paths and the sea whispers nearby, a new adventure begins. Lady Ella and her brother Lord Jack have arrived with an important mission: to teach kindness, patience, and the power of listening. In a hidden alley, a group of forgotten cats feel unseen and unheard, lost in silence and growing misunderstandings, until someone finally takes the time to truly listen. Because when we listen from the heart, loneliness softens, kindness grows, and new friendships begin. This is Book 10 of The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor book series. Find all Dr. Kerbeck's books on Amazon and in fine bookstores worldwide.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/usaglobaltv. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.